Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Informed in 5. Today's guest, Tria Stout, joins us to share information about youth transition services and the importance of planning early and having good support. Tria currently serves as a transition coordinator for the Madison County School District, where she assists families and students as they make plans for their next phase in life. Thank you so much for joining me today, Tria.
I'm glad to be here.
What services does Madison County School Districts offer?
For students that are not on a traditional diploma track, we have a variety of services that we work with our schools. And we work with all the high schools here in Madison County that are public. I work with Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High, Madison, Central, Germantown High, and Velma Jackson. And we have a transition skills lab that's centrally located that we bring our students into beginning in middle school and also high school. Um, it's an excellent program where we're able to tailor things to the needs of those students and where they're at to build the skills that they need, whether it is an independent living focused or vocational focused. Um, so we have those skills labs that we do with those that's outside the classroom. And for some students, beginning in middle schools is great just to learn how to transition into a different location. So there's positives all along the way for every level of student in those programs. The When the pandemic hit, we had to look at how are we going to continue providing transition services to these students and keep them safe in the community. So last year in the summer, during 2020, when the world was locked down, we were fortunate to get a grant through the DD Council and for a startup of an online store. As you know, most things have moved to where we're purchasing online. So it was kind of a really neat fit. And so we have our students, it's a student-led program, and we do that within our program. So we have the online store. We also have in our district driver's permit services. And this is additional to what you would think of as driver's education. Sometimes taking the actual driver's permit as you know, can be a big challenge for our students with disabilities to pass. So we have a teacher that does tutorial that's specific towards driving. So students that are going to one day want to drive, this is a great opportunity because here in Mississippi, if you don't have transportation, finding employment is very difficult. So we started this several years ago, and been a great success with our teacher that we have for that. Another thing that we do is we do post-secondary training tours. We go on college campuses and do college tours in our local area every year. Now, the pandemic did affect that last year. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that going again this year because we have students that are eager and want to go see that, and they get to learn about how to access not just applying for college, but how to access the services that colleges offer through their disability programs, because that's really different than what you can get in a public high school and public school. It changes significantly, and that's one of the things that we also do workshops and conferences that will go over anything from basic banking and how to open a banking account, a checking account, about housing, what's renting, what's a mortgage, to learning how to dress for success, all the different things that students need to know when they're leaving. We try to incorporate that, and those are focused for our juniors and seniors when they are getting ready, especially that senior year. We want to give them all the tools that they can to put in their toolbox. We've worked all along the way, but we have some big culmination events during their senior year that are really special for them. Because one of the most important things that students need is self-advocacy. And so in everything that we do, we are trying to teach students to advocate for themselves, whether it's in our skills lab, the choices that they're making, how they express themselves to one of the most important things I think is our students need to be in their IEP meetings when they as soon as they can. And in our district, that's at age 14 or 7th grade, whichever comes earlier. And we can talk more about that later. Self-advocacy is critical. And other services are more parent and family focused, um, giving them the information about what agencies they want to connect with, what this not just student. We want to make sure the parents have that information so they can understand those programs because as you may be aware that it's a whole nother language when you get into dealing with other, you know, agencies. Everybody's got their acronyms and they begin to kind of it's not the same as what you're hearing in your school districts. So it's real important for our parents to understand what's available. So we do that through a variety of methods. I do consultations with families that's specific towards, regardless. I mean, could be on a waiver, it could be understanding how can they access through the Department of Rehab Services. We have parent nights. We've had where they come in, where we have lots of vendors to come in and discuss their services or just talking about financial literacy that they need to know. We have a transition specialist that's currently co-funded with the Department of Rehabilitation Services. But the pre-employment transition classes that we offer are really neat. Ms. Trinette Nichols, our specialist, will work with those students to go over there's 5 core areas that she'll go over, but she also works to help them get, if they're interested in getting placed on jobs, she'll help them with those applications, interviews, getting that connection made, learning about some basic work readiness, things that they need to know. She'll help them prepare for interviews. The pre-employment training services is one of the things that across the nation that I think is a plus, but how it's implemented in every district is probably a little bit different. But we're very blessed to have our specialist, Ms. Nichols, to do a great job here.
What kind of partnerships does the school district have with the local community?
Great question. So I mentioned pre-pandemic, we took our students out into the community. And so we have connections with employers all over our county that are big partners of us. That's, you know, to provide work experience while they're in school, but we've had several that go on to be employees there. But it's not just the employers that we're partners with. We're partners with our community colleges, our adult providers that provide services for intellectual and developmental disabilities. Having those relationships with those providers is critical to us being to be well informed about what's out there and who can provide the best service for the individual student. One of the things that I see is in the aspect of intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we're fortunate in the metro area here, there are more than one provider that they can choose from. Now, granted, we have a great need for more. I would love to see another one come into Madison County. There is one that provides, it's a large facility that has a lot, but that may not be appropriate for every student that's exiting high school. We have some that might need a little bit smaller environment that doesn't have quite the busy environment of the day. Some really, but I have some that thrive in that big social environment. So learning the nuances and the cultures of those things is important to me and my staff so we can appropriately tell our parents, here's what's out there, and have those connections and relationships with all the providers in our community. So I hope that answers that question, but we work with community colleges, providers, and our businesses. So we're real fortunate here in Madison County to have those connections and relationships.
Let's talk about the transition plans and why those are so important.
Oh, great question. A transition plan is a plan within the IEP. So when a student turns 14, there is a section on that IEP that is like a roadmap, or really sets the goals. What are those current goals of a student? What is it they want to do for a job? Do they want to go to college? Do they want to live on their own, or they plan on living at home? Beginning to think through those things and explore things. The one thing that's different about the transition plan that's different when the other IEP is We know that what we're choosing to be at the age 14 may not be what we end up being. So, but to look at, and I think it's so important. And personally, you don't want to necessarily wait. We want to offer opportunities as parents to begin to explore what's out there and not just limit our um, children's view. You know, what are the options for careers and school and training? What's out there after high school? So, that transition plan, you're going to look at those goals and what is it that's going to take to get to those goals. I think this is a place that our students can be even more involved in and say, this is what I want to be, a makeup artist. And this is where, and start researching to learn where do makeup artists work? Where do I want to, I mean, we have students that want to do all kinds of things to really begin to explore careers, but not just to explore that, it's to begin for them to advocate and learn to advocate in a safe place. Because that IEP team, while when you're sitting there and you've got a lot of adults sitting around that table, it can be extremely intimidating for everybody at the table. For, you know, you've got all these people, but know that that team is there for you, the student. And to begin to share your ideas and what you want to do is so important, whether it's the classes that you want to take or the careers you want to do, or you want to one day live on your own. What's it going to take to begin to explore that at that early age? You know, don't wait until it's your last year in high school. Let's start in that seventh grade and start looking at what is it that I like? What is it that I don't like? Or do I really not like this, or have I just not tried it? Sometimes we'll say, I don't really want to do that. I had students, no, I don't want to do that. Well, they've never tried it. So exploring those career opportunities in your community and in our world and sharing your ideas and thoughts, I think is a great place to start exhibiting even more self-advocacy for our students than it is than we've had before, since they're in those IEP meetings. And I highly encourage parents and students to come to the IEP meetings, share your thoughts. And sometimes students don't want to stay for the whole thing, and that's okay. But to come and say, this is what I want and I'm interested in, is important. Student is interested in coming. If you've got a student that is active and more interested at a younger age, I think that's fine. They may not want to be in there for the whole thing, and you may want them to come and share part of it, or send a written note. You know, I think there's a lot of ways to accomplish. Write out your thoughts and bring them with you. Sometimes, you know, because meetings can be a little, you know, nerve wracking. You may be a little nervous about what you want to say, but to show up as soon as you have an interest. Now, I know some people don't want to go to meetings, but at age 14, or you're getting that seventh grade, you're getting close to high school, I would start coming and I would keep coming. Don't, you know, don't, especially your annual IEP where you're planning off next year. I love it when we have students come and they say, I want to take this class and this class, and this is what I want to do. And they've really thought it out. And, or even have a, students need to realize you can call an IEP meeting. Now that, I've had that happen, and it's really special. When you have a student say, this is what I want, and how do I get there? That makes me feel good because that means we've got a student that wants to guide their own career. And that's really what we want to see. You know, students can do that at any point, which we love to see.
And with that in mind, talk a little bit about how if a student chooses to go into post secondary education at a university or community college, talk about how that is different from the high school experience with IEPs and how it needs to, and it is more student led at that point, and why that is so important in having that involvement early.
Oh, very important. If when you get to college, after you leave high school, not just college, but all programs, the students need to be, they've got to share their own voice. When you get to college, you need to go sign up with disability services. Like first thing, that needs to be like on you're taking your tour, you're getting registered for classes. You don't want to wait and ask for everything that you feel that you can benefit from. Extended time, a note taker. There are services that you can get in college. Well, let me back up. There are services that you get in high school that are not available in college. But there are services you can get in college. You can get note takers, extended time. It depends on your individual need. You may need just priority registration so you can get in the right classes, the timing of them. You can also different programs at different colleges. And this is one of the important things I think about college tours is to learn what does that college, are they really good at providing when you're looking at, do I need interpreter services? We have some colleges that have excellent access to a lot of interpreters. So you're not ever going to struggle there. But some colleges in Mississippi, just because of their location, may not have access to as many interpreters. So they're going to have to look at how can we get this done? And is that going to be a problem? So you may have dreamed of always going to a specific place. Well, is that we want to make sure that they've got everything, and signing up early so they can get those in place is important. And if they're not, just because there's no something in that area that you really need, you want to know that in advance. So sharing that information, signing up, just as because nobody, like in high school and all through public school, you've had a teacher that will set up and manage your meetings, make sure that those are going to take place. From once you leave high school, there's nobody doing that but you. So you've got that. That's one of the reasons I say go to those IEP meetings. That is a great training ground to practice explaining. That way, when you're going to be comfortable going into those programs and saying, okay, this is what I need and why I need it. Here's my old IEP. This is from high school. This is what I got there. You'll also have to provide disability information to show that you actually have a disability that impacts your learning. And how that is so they can provide the services. So don't ever, don't take it for granted it's just going to happen. Because once you leave high school, there's nobody, you're looking out for you. The other important thing is once you turn 18 and you're in college, those professors can't talk to your parents without release of information. And that's a big change, not just for you, but for your parents. So you won't have them calling saying, did Johnny go to class today? No, you have to, it's at this point, it's yours to win. And so that means you need to speak up, ask for what you need, and show up. You have to go to class to pass. That is really critical. I know sometimes it's tempting when you don't have somebody to sleep in and not push that, but showing up is one of the number one things, and speaking up. Show up and speak up.
What do you think are your students' greatest challenges as they transition out of school and into adulthood?
Um, I think of two different things. One is what we just talked about, speaking up for yourself, a challenge, speaking up in worlds that you might not have ever walked in and you don't understand kind of what they're talking about. And the second is there is what I would call a lingo or a language, kind of bureaucratic. When I say bureaucratic, it's like when you go from one business to another business, we all have our own acronyms. Just like within youth, you have your own keywords and cool words that I might not understand. But they're saying things, for example, so we've been accustomed to having IEPs, an individualized education plan, all through our services in high school. So after high school, if you apply for services, and we're going to talk about the Department of Rehabilitation Services, specifically vocational rehabilitation, that program is there to help people with disabilities get jobs and stay on jobs. And that means whatever that's needed to get there, if you're eligible, So you have to provide all that information, your medical information, your IEP. They may even have to do some additional testing or medical stuff to verify your disability. But once you are eligible and you write that, what they call, instead of an IEP in the schools, it's an IPE, an individual plan for employment. So their goal is to get you to go to work. And if you want to do something that's going to require that degree in college, that's going to be on your plan. But you've got to tell them, hey, this is, and is that a good goal for you? They're going to help you figure out, you may say, I want to be an accountant, but you hate math. Well, that might not be the best career fit for you if you don't really like the numbers. So finding that's what they're there for. But one of the biggest challenges is working in new systems, because adult service systems are different than public school systems.
What kind of supports and programs do students need to connect with before they leave high school?
I think of two big services. They're not the only ones, but two I want to mention is if you have an intellectual or developmental disability. As soon as you have that diagnosis, even before, if you're a preschooler, if parents are listening to this, if you've got a student that has a developmental or intellectual disability, to get evaluated through the diagnostic and evaluation units at your local regional center. Ours here in our area is Hudspeth Regional Center, and we've got that information on our website of how to contact them. But to get that evaluation so you can access the waiver services, there's a long waiting list for those, years and years. But you don't want to wait. Don't, till just as soon as you can, you want to get evaluated for that. That is one of the things, to access those waiver services and understand that. That's hard to navigate, but getting evaluated and then learning about that. There's other services provided through Medicaid waiver for those groups when they exit high school, called their Medicaid services under what they call the 1915I program. And that is community services, home and community services, day programs where they're able to supported employment, those things through adult providers. And that's all administered through the Department of Mental Health, but they have adult providers that actually provide the services. So that's a complex, and I'm happy to explain that if somebody wants to give my office a call. I kind of can explain that part. The other program, the second program, is what I mentioned, the vocational rehabilitation program. If a student is wanting to go to college, they want to go to work, that program, if you're eligible, can provide I'm talking about a whole world of things. From if you're going into a job and you're going to need certain kind of shoes, you need closed toe, skid-free shoes, they may be able to help you pay for those shoes. But you have to ask. You have to apply for services, and it's a process. Nothing moves quick when you're dealing with government programs. But once you get in their program, and you make sure you're contacting that office and letting them know what your needs are to see if they need to modify or amend your plan for employment. They also may be able to help you pay for college, or parts of it. Maybe not the whole thing, but they may be able to assist you with some of the books or technology that you need to go to college. That everybody's different on what they need to get to work. That's the one thing. Their program is individualized. And so what your friend may be getting from vocational rehabilitation may be very different than what you need, because you have different goals, you have different needs. And so they're going to look at that. They also are great at connecting people to internships, which I think is a huge plus. That's even in high school, to do some internships and get some work experience in areas that you might not have had otherwise. And you can kind of say, do I really want to do this before I commit 4 years in college, or before I invest I want to be a welder. And so just to learn all the things that you need to do. Those are the two main programs. There's a lot of other programs but that you've got Job Corps. If you're having a problem, you need assistance applying for FAFSA, which is the financial aid piece to college. There's Get to College that can assist you with that. There's a lot of different programs out there, but as far as if I was going to narrow it down to two, those would be my two that we're going to start with. And then if that's not available, we're going to dig deeper and look for that student.
Now, how important is it to provide meaningful work experiences for the youth with disabilities?
Oh, I think it's very important. One of the things that you'll find in the world, and statistically, it's shown that students that have had work experiences have greater success in their future. So that's one of the reasons we focus in on work experience, learning the different things here in Madison County, and encouraging our students, and as soon as you can do some work, whether it's in your home, your neighbor, your community, learning some basics of showing up on time, what is it that they need you to do? I encourage that. You will see students that have a variety of work experience are able to figure out, yes, I really like working outdoors, or no, I do not want to work outdoors. Just those simple things is important, that sometimes with people with disabilities, our parents are a little bit leery of they're afraid of what we might face. So finding those safe environments for us to do that's real important. But there are opportunities. You just have to look for them. You have to look hard for them, but it's worth it.
And speaking of that, how important is having good support for your students?
Oh, I think support for all of our students is important. Um, to support their dreams and their goals, and not to when I think of support, that comes in so many arenas. And I think that's the good thing about having an IEP, is you have a whole team of people to support you and to hear what your needs are. But supports in the classroom and out of the classroom, and getting connected to this adult services and other services, community-based services, whether it's in your church or community that has programs, accessing those so you can create a bigger circle of support. Um, I think it's always helpful when you see people that don't have the supports and they're operating in a vacuum. They're You don't have as many people on their team, and the bigger the team, you've got more accountability of people and information that's out there, and connections. I would say, and this is my personal thought, that most jobs, actually I think it's probably most jobs people find are through connections and relationships of people that they have, that they know. It's word of mouth, and having those people on your team and hearing, okay, hey, he wants to work in lawn service this summer. And they're going, well, hey, my next door neighbor runs a company. I bet he would be interested. But having everybody hear that without, is important. So to have the support from your special special education assistants, to your teachers, to your outside community, from your friends, family, church, providers. You want everybody that quality support. Um, you want to have people that are really backing you. And if they're causing a detractant, well, let's move on and keep looking.
And how important is it, that community aspect of having the community see these students in the work environment and what they're capable of?
I think that is really important to our community, to our world, to know, we've really evolved over the past many years to where we are now. We have a long way to go. But to have an inclusive community where you see everybody working and know that everybody can work, and not, I think, will only improve our own communities. I think we're pretty supportive here in Madison County. You see that because we, just by the business partners that we've had, and hope to be able to get out in the community very soon once this peak. We hope to get back in the community and go out to our workforce and start working. We've not had really, we're fortunate, we've had very few negative um, experiences with that. We have a lot of people that really appreciate seeing our students working, and we love seeing our former students working, which we still do. And we're out in the community, we see them working, they're just part of us. I think that's what everybody, it just needs to be, it's not, we're all people and we all work together. And I think that's what's our goal for this world is. We've not got people stereotyped to think that they can't work because they may have a challenge that I don't have, because we all have challenges.
How has working with students with disabilities impacted your life?
Oh, it is my life. I have worked in the field with people with disabilities for, oh my goodness, this is 2021, 31 years. Oh, that makes me feel, 31 years. But I started a long time ago, and my dad's best friend had a disability. He was a wounded veteran and a paraplegic, and they owned a farm. And he ran cows in his wheelchair. I never saw Mr. Morgan's disability. Honestly, I grew up not seeing, in the sense of, I don't look at things as disability. It was just who he was, and he overcame every challenges. He's now in his 90s and he's still kicking, doing well. He doesn't have this farm anymore. He's retired. But I think the impact students and adults, both with disabilities, it's why I get up and go to work every day. I still love my job. People know I've got my years and could retire, but until I don't enjoy this, why should I? I love the students. They have changed. They change your perspective every day because you get to learn something from them, and we get to help them learn things. So it's a win-win for all of us. But it's just my life, and so I'm very blessed. I think it helps me count my blessings.
Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all this great information.
Thank you. We appreciate being recognized and letting us share kind of what we do here in Madison County.